And we begin with the man who's leading the president's review of the intelligence failures that led to the Christmas Day attempted bombing of Flight 253, the president's top counterterrorism official, Deputy National Security Advisor John Brennan. Good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Terry.
Well, this morning there is news out of Yemen that the United States Embassy has been closed for security reasons and the British Embassy closed as well. What can you tell us about the intelligence? What is it showing about the new threats to U.S. interests there?
Well, I think it underscores the threat that al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula poses to U.S. interests. I spoke with our ambassador in Sana'a, Steve Sesh, earlier this morning and last night, looked at the intelligence that's available as far as the plans for al-Qaeda to carry out attacks in Sana'a, possibly against our embassy, possibly against U.S. personnel. Decided it was the prudent thing to do to shut the embassy, but we're working very closely with the Yemeni authorities to address the threat that is out there. But again, it just demonstrates that al-Qaeda is determined to carry out these attacks, and we're determined to thwart those attacks.
There's a live threat. There's an active threat.
There is. Al-Qaeda has several hundred members, in fact, in Yemen, and they've grown in strength. That's why, from the very first day of this administration, we've been focused on Yemen. I've traveled out to Yemen twice, talked with President Saleh. In fact, just this past week, we're continuing this dialogue. We've provided equipment, training. We're cooperating very closely. So this is something that we've known about for a while. We're determined to destroy al-Qaeda, whether it's in Pakistan, Afghanistan, or in Yemen, and we will get there.
And there's a report that the British and the United States are now setting up a counterterrorism police force in Yemen. The efforts that you've described, counterterrorism police force, is this evidence that this is a new front, and does it require more American boots on the ground in Yemen?
Well, we've been investing in Yemen for many, many months now, and we're working very closely, not just with the Yemenis, but with our international partners, with the British, with the Saudis, and others, to make sure that we provide the Yemeni government the wherewithal to carry out this fight against al-Qaeda. So it's not a new front. It's one that we've known about. It's one that we've been able to make tremendous, I think, progress and gains. Just this past month, we and the Yemenis were able to identify the location of some of these al-Qaeda operatives and commanders and leaders, successful strikes that were carried out, and there are several of the al-Qaeda members, operatives, and the senior leaders who are no longer with us today as a result of those actions.
Okay, let's turn to Flight 253, the failed terror attack on Christmas Day. The president now has reports from the CIA, Department of Homeland Security, other agencies. And the basic questions American people have are pretty straightforward. Who dropped the ball here? Where did the system fail?
Well, first of all, there was no single piece of intelligence, a smoking gun, if you will, that said that Mr. Abdul Muttalib was going to carry out this attack against that aircraft. What we had, looking back on it now, were a number of streams of information. We had the information that came from his father, where he was concerned about his son going to Yemen, consorting with extremists, and that he was not going to go back. We also, though, had other streams of information coming from intelligence channels that were little snippets. We might have had a partial name, we might have had an indication of a Nigerian, but there was nothing that brought it all together. What we need to do as a government and as a system is to bring that information together. So when a father comes in with information and we have intelligence, we can map that up so that we stop individuals like Abdul Muttalib from getting on a plane.
But that is exactly the conversation we had after 9/11 about connecting these disparate dots. You were one of the architects of the system put in place. After that, the National Counterterrorism Center. That's where the failure occurred, right? The dots weren't connected.
Well, in fact, prior to 9/11, I think there was reluctance on the part of a lot of agencies and departments from sharing information. There's no evidence whatsoever that any agency or department was reluctant to share.
Including the NSA, where the NSA intercepts shared with the National Counterterrorism Center?
Absolutely. All the information was shared, except that there are millions upon millions of bits of data that come in on a regular basis. What we need to do is to make sure the system is robust enough that we can bring that information to the surface that really is of concern. We need to make the system stronger. That's what the president's determined to do.
You say millions upon millions of bits of data. Facebook has 350 million users who put out 3.5 billion pieces of content a week, and it's always drawing connections. In the era of Google, why does the U.S. intelligence community not have the sophistication and power of Facebook?
Well, in fact, we do have the sophistication and power of Facebook, and well beyond that. That's why we were able to stop Mr. Najibullah Zazi, David Headley, other individuals from carrying out attacks, because we were able to do that on a regular basis. In this one instance, the system didn't work. There were some human errors, there were some lapses. We need to strengthen it. But day in and day out, the successes are there. We're continuing to make progress against al-Qaeda, and we've been very fortunate that we've been able to take advantage of the systems in place and the tremendous dedication of American men and women throughout the intelligence, homeland security, and law enforcement communities. As Americans, we're able to enjoy their holidays, watching football games, spending time with their families. These dedicated Americans are working around the clock to protect their fellow Americans.
Let's talk about accountability for a moment, because President Obama said he will insist on accountability at every level. Last week, Janet Napolitano, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, was on this program and others, and this is what she had to say about the Christmas Day attack.
The traveling public is safe. We have instituted some additional screening and security measures in light of this incident, but again, everybody reacted as they should. The system, once the incident occurred, the system worked.
Now, Secretary Napolitano also said that there was no information that would have put Abdul Muttalib on a no-fly list, which we now know not to be the case. Was it a mistake for her to say that, or was she just out of the loop?
I think Secretary Napolitano clarified her remarks about the system working or not. I have been able to work with Secretary Napolitano the last 11 months, and I consider that we as a nation are very fortunate to have somebody of Secretary Napolitano's caliber, experience, and dedication. Day in and day out, she's working very hard to make sure that the American public is safe and will continue to be safe. So what we're trying to do with Janet and with the other agencies and departments is to find out how we can strengthen the system. As I said, the system works very, very well every day, but there are instances when, for whatever reason, something didn't happen. The President does consider it to be unacceptable. We're going to work to strengthen it. We're going to do everything possible to make sure that nobody again, like Abdul Muttalib, gets on a plane with explosives.
This has been a hard week for the CIA. There's 7 CIA officers killed in a suicide bombing on the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. What can you tell us about how that attack occurred, and how badly will it impact U.S. intelligence gathering in Afghanistan?
Well, first of all, I think the tragic death of those 7 CIA officers just underscores the tremendous bravery and the risk that these men and women of the CIA put themselves at every day. I think this nation owes them a tremendous debt of gratitude. CIA is looking very carefully at the circumstances surrounding that attack, are trying to make sure that it doesn't happen again. The CIA is on the front line, right along that border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. As you point out, it is going to take a toll as far as the people that are there, the expertise that we have. But the CIA is a tremendously resilient organization. I had the privilege to serve there for 25 years. It has the most dedicated men and women in this United States. And so therefore, we're confident that the CIA is going to be able to rebound from this and be able to continue to prosecute this war against al-Qaeda.
Should they be out on the front line like that?
Yes, this is a very, very dangerous threat that al-Qaeda poses to us. We have to take those risks. We have to do it prudently, and that's why we have to learn from the attack, just like the attempted attack on the 25th of December, the attack against the base in Khost. But we need to take those risks because we need to be able to find out sort of who these individuals are, what they're planning, and what their next steps are.
All right, good luck.
Thank you very
Brennan,
much,
thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.